This is Raution, CEO and co-founder of InsuredMine, and you are listening to the 30 Minute with Insurance CEO podcast, the show that is designed to inspire growth and impact so you can create the best version of your agency by learning from the leading insurance CEOs. Today, we are talking to a very good friend of mine whom we have met through Insured Mind, but the more I learn about this gentleman, I am just enamored. Today, let's start by talking about how you grow and transition an agency with Kash Fadaie. He's a CEO and co-founder founder of Fedai Insurance. Please welcome Kash. Kash, welcome to the show. And why don't we start by learning a little bit about you? Tell me about yourself.
Grateful to be with you. Thanks for having me. I am a refugee from Iran. Came out with my parents. I came to the United States. I came to Germany when I was 5 during the revolution. And when I was 10 years old, came to the United States. Always wanted to be a business owner, businessman. At 13, I started my first business in Florida, cutting lawns. And I started other businesses, probably a dozen, until I got into real estate and the car business. And by the process of isolation, through all my sorrows and failures and successes, the culmination of all of that got me into the insurance industry in the year 2004. And like I said, the culmination of all of those things and the passion that I had got me into the insurance industry. In 2004, I started working with Allstate, and I discovered that I was really good at doing insurance, and I didn't even know what insurance was. I was just like, what is this? And then when I discovered that there's a residual aspect of insurance, that was it for me.
Interesting. So that's what was your kind of a starting point of
hmm
insurance. Well, we'll come
hmm
to a lot of insurance. So help me understand a little bit about your agency a bit. How would you define from personal lines, commercial lines, size of the agency, how many folks, a little bit about your agency, so the
Yeah.
folks can get a context.
Well, when I first started out, I was undercapitalized. I didn't have many appointments. I didn't have a lot of uh,
Of course,
experience.
that's where everybody starts.
Yeah. So I started with non-standard auto, whatever I could get, right? And I
Wow.
was working those car dealerships next to me. I would take them donuts, and I was a one-man show, and they would bring me their clients, and that's how I started to cash flow. And from that, those very clients started to give me some homeowners business, and homeowners business started to have better residual, better yields. So from that homeowners sort of stepping point, I got into the preferred market, and I started to acquire preferred carriers. And from the preferred bundling opportunities that I got, I eventually got into these people that had businesses. So I started writing bops, and I taught myself everything in this business. Back then, we didn't have much technology. In fact, I used to have, uh, you know, metal file cabinets. I would go get the files from the back, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, baby, and I would bring it and I would put them on hold, and that's how I started. But I also needed to grow faster, so I started doing internet leads. Back then, it was called net quotes, and I would work those net quotes 2, 3 in the morning because I needed to get a fresh start to have an advantage. So that's how I started. And then I got into bops, like I said, and after the commercial department was birthed, um, my endeavor was to be a full service agency, you know, home and auto, personal lines, commercial lines. And I started to do life insurance as well, term life, just basic stuff. So that's kind of what happened. That's how I started, but I still didn't have enough capital, and I needed to, I owned a job back then. I was self-employed because it was all about me. But I needed to get I needed to create systems, and I didn't have much capital. But what I did was I hired high school students from an honor roll program, and the high school would send me, these young kids, and I would put them into filing, clerk, and out of 10 or 12 of them, two of these young individuals did very well, and they spoke Spanish, which was great in Southern California. So I hired these girls fresh from when they graduated from high school, and both of these girls are still in the insurance industry, making a six-figure income. And so it's a beautiful story, but that's how I sort of started to delegate more. And I learned that I cannot do everything, right? So when I started to delegate, I finally became a business owner, right? Because I was able to do better things, right? And let the younger folks that are starting out to do some of the more remedial things, right? So that's kind of how it worked. And that delegation started to mature, and I kept doing that. I kept doing that until there was a specific role for each individual on my team. And then I got to do better things, like talk to more clients and advise more, and write commercial more, and do life more. And so that's how I matured into a business owner. And then later I became an investor, right? I follow the Kiyosaki quadrants, the rich dad, poor dad, because it's so succinct. But I endeavored to be beyond businessman. I wanted to be an investor. So what did I do? And this is a good segue.
Mhm.
Is I understood that I needed to invest in my agency, right? So I took most of my profits. I lived very humbly, and I reinvested in my agency. And what did I invest in? I invested in technology. So I'll leave it at that so we can segue into more things. But that was the fourth quadrant,
Mhm.
investor. That's what I wanted to do.
Interesting.
Um, yeah,
Wow, there is so much to unpack. Let's add a couple more element to that. You did mention that you were in California. So talk to us. Are you still in California? But I believe you have moved. So talk to me where you are and the
yeah,
size of the agency a bit.
absolutely. Yeah, so all of this happened in Southern California, near San Diego area. And at that time, the market was very soft. And I acquired Safeco, Travelers, Mercury, very, very good carriers. And I started to write with them. Um, and at two, 2000, well, 3 years ago, right after COVID, I saw the writing on the wall, and I wanted to diversify. The hard market hadn't started yet, and Texas was becoming a huge, prominent sort of place for a lot of entrepreneurs. So I had the hunch to say, look, even today, most of my revenue comes from California, but I said, we need to diversify. I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. And at that time, I started to invest in technology a lot more, and we became virtual. And that was a pivotal moment of my agency when I started to get rid of the brick and mortar. In fact, COVID was a big blessing because COVID was that one thing that stopped my procrastination, right? I knew I had to be a virtual agency one day, but COVID forced the issue. So when that happened, I sent everybody home because I had invested in good technology. I was at I was able to save all of that unnecessary overhead because our industry can totally be virtual, and you can still drive performance if you have the right technology. This is a key component. And so we went to Texas. We became virtual. I saved all that unnecessary expenditure on brick and mortar. I also went the VA route on a lot of my CSRs. Um, and I reinvested that money back into the agency and became more
Mhm.
and more nimble. Today we're at $9 million in active premium for our agency. 40% of that is commercial, 60% is personal. But commercial is our emerging market right now. We're writing most of our premium, like new business right now, is coming from commercial. Again, we pivoted, and I have to thank the events of COVID for that. COVID really woke us up, and it propelled us. And guys, COVID can go two ways, right? A lot of people buckled, and some people took those lemons and made lemonade, right? We made lemonade. And so our agency is growing more than ever. So that's kind of where we are. We're going to be at 10 million very soon. I estimate in the next 2 months. That's how fast we're growing, especially in commercial right now. We're writing 50 to $150,000 premiums. And so we're moving fast. We're growing fast. And the VA,
How big is the
uh,
team,
right now we have 23 individuals helping us. You
including the
know,
VAs? Or yeah,
yeah, they're included in that. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. We'll
Yeah,
come
I
back to
have.
that.
Yeah.
On the VA side, it's a very current trendy topic. Everybody either have them or are curious to learn from folks who are already have VA experience. So, but let me just take a step back. So as you talked about your early days, man, that's so fascinating. From being a refugee to being a successful entrepreneur. That's and interestingly, the last three interviews I have done on my podcast, were all three second generation or third or fourth generation of some of these guys in insurance. And where your story is completely on the other extreme, a scratch agency built from nothing, have nothing, just that grit. To build everything around, and the only thing you have is yourself, and you are just improving every day. So that's so empowering. It's so influencing to everybody. Let me ask you this: what if you would not have done insurance? What else you would have done?
Something in the entrepreneur sales side. I love people, and I love I can articulate well. It's one of the things I do well. And because I love people, I'm always able to help them make wise decisions.
Hmm.
So it definitely would have been entrepreneurship. It definitely would have been something in the area of influencing sales. Yeah, those are the things that. So I mean, I had a car. I was in the car business before. I learned a lot in the car business, and I learned a lot in the real estate business too. But again, what struck me so profoundly about insurance was the residual aspect of it. Yeah, I
Hmm.
really enjoyed that, and so I would have gone somewhere in that realm, somewhere in those realms. I would say.
Interesting. Um, what have been the biggest challenge so far in growing your business?
The biggest challenge would be undercapitalized, but it's hard to it was good and bad, right? Because like, imagine if I had the capital but not the experience. Yeah,
Hmm.
because when you first start out, there's a lot of ego and there's a lot of mistakes that can be made, right? So I always reflect on this, brother. I think back and say, hey, if you had the capital in the early strata of your career, would you have spent it unwisely? Yeah, and most likely I
Right.
would. Yeah. So yes, you can collapse time with capital, but maybe that was a blessing. Maybe it was a blessing that I had to struggle and, like you said, have the grit without the capital and make wiser decisions.
Yeah.
So
No.
it's a good question. So I mean, but that was the struggle. I always remember, hey, I wish I had more. I couldn't, I wanted more to advertise, but maybe I would have advertised wrongly. you know and so that was
eh,
the struggle. The other struggle would have been, I would say, probably in the arena of, and this is probably a lot of people can concur, but finding the right help, right? And that was an art that I had to learn. I had to learn that.
People,
And I learned it
yeah,
the hard way.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, that's yeah, and again, in terms of capital, I think that's the question I always try to answer. And insured mine, again, we're not gonna talk much about it, but just my personal journey in terms of, we never raised capital, right?
Mm.
So,
Hmm.
and that was always a struggle. Should we raise? Should we not? Because it comes with its own challenge,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not having did I don't think it kind of had a very negative impact on us. Rather, it made us frugal, it made us more resourceful,
Hmm.
more effective with our capital, with what we have. And I think
Hmm.
that's what you have done so
Hmm.
resourcefully. As-
100%. 100%. Yep.
the again, you and I have spoke at length at dinners, and you have such an interesting personal journey. So let's unpack that a little bit. Tell me about you, as your personal journey has evolved to be a CEO, from that car sales guy to this. What has been that biggest challenge and the biggest revelation to yourself, and what is that one thing that you would share?
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions. Look, being a CEO, it has a lot of moving parts, right? Because you have to have a lot of variables working together in order for you to be rendering the energy required as a CEO, right? And so the culmination, or what's the bottom line of this, what the revelation that I got was that I needed to be 100% on my energy, right? So what does that mean? That meant that I needed to be physically fit. I needed to be on the right diet. Being in an office, as everybody can agree, it's difficult. You put
Hmm.
yourself last usually, and with putting yourself last, you don't exercise, you don't eat properly, and so that's going to change your attitude. That's going to make you unable to have self-control when a client does you wrong. And then what happens is all you have is your reputation and the actions that you take. So the revelation that came to me was, how do I preserve energy and how do I increase energy so that I can be happy? Happy. And it sounds very trite, but if you're not happy, are you going to have a prosperous relationship with your spouse? What if you have a spouse that is feeling neglected and you think that that's not going to come into your business? Everything is connected. Everything is connected. So it starts with investing in myself, right?
Hmm.
If I don't invest in myself, if I don't have a routine in the morning, in the middle day, in the afternoon, and if I'm not at my 100%, then this whole thing doesn't is meaningless. It doesn't matter. It's first of all, even if you get to 50 million, 100 million, what good is it if you're sick, if you're
Yep.
if you're broken, if you have broken relationships? It's not worth it. So for me, I married my spiritual, physical, mental with my financial, huh? And I wanted to have a holistic approach to this business. Why? Because I wanted longevity, right? And so I had to get clear about my why, WHY. Why? Why am I doing this, Cash? And once I got clear on that, I realized I wanted to create legacy. I wanted to revolutionize the insurance retail space, and I wanted to be set apart. And so, in order to do that, I had to be conductive. I could not have things inhibit me from that. So, once my why became clear, it was very obvious that I had to do certain things every day to raise my energy, my vibration, I call it. And
Man.
that has been the fulcrum of my career. And today, after 18 years, I got to tell you, I have more energy than I did when I first started. Like, I'm so excited when I come into the seat. I'm so excited and happy. I call it bliss, BLISS. I
For
have
sure.
bliss. Yeah. So that's, you know, I know I give very deep answers.
Oh man, it's no more business. It's above and beyond. This transcends. No,
Yeah,
but this
yeah.
is fascinating, and that's why I say this is one of the most interesting conversation I'll have. And for even the listeners, I think this is important to hear that business is no more just doing business. It's about you. It's about how do you build that kind of that mindset. And I am tempted to go into the direction and double click on that on your journey. And I know you mentioned, and I'm taking that liberty here to say that you talked about your trip to India, and you went to ashrams and met some of those monks, and that had a deep impact on this all
Hmm.
thinking. So I don't know if you want to share that a little bit, and how
Sure,
does
I'd
that?
love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. When I was 9 years old, I had this unusual interest in spiritual things. I have no idea why. I have my theories, but that's another conversation. But I realized that my ancestors were written in the Christian Bible and actually the Jewish Bible, the Persians. And anyways, that was fascinating. That why did these Persian ancestors of mine, why were they in these books, in the Isaiah, Nehemiah, Esther, Ezra, all these books, Daniel? Anyways, that opened the rabbit hole, and that took me into reading a lot. I started to read, and that reading started to give me command in the English language,
Mhm.
and my comprehension became greater. But I was pursuing the meaning of life. Why am I here? Who is God? And so that took me to a pathway of mysticism.
Hmm.
And mysticism is every tradition, every religion has a esoteric side, right? There's the exoteric, that's the overt religious systems, but there's also a esoteric side, right? And so I became very interested in these mystical ideas of Jesus, of Krishna, of Buddha, Zoroaster. And that led me in 1998. I was listening to a cassette. Back then, we had cassettes. And I was listening to this one fella, Deepak Chopra. And Deepak started to talk about going within. And I had heard about going within because I had read a lot of books at the self-help book section of Barnes and Noble was only about 8 feet back then. Now it's 2 aisles.
Yeah,
But I would
yeah.
sit there. They used to let you sit back then. I used to read the autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. And over again, there was this one theme: go
Go
within,
with it.
go within. Yeah.
Guys, just to caution you there, I know I want to apologize to the listeners if you think this is not typical insurance. Guys, this is interesting. I'm sure you listen to how to grow your commercial side and a personal side of insurance, but listen, this is gold. And what Cash is sharing, you won't get a lot of insurance you're talking about all of these things. So I'm glad I'm able to bring him for him to share this kind of a knowledge. So please go ahead,
I'm honored.
Cash. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I'm honored. So in 1998, I because all of this matters because this is the driving force of my energy. So for the listeners out there, yeah, that's the reason I wanted to share this authentic revelation and story. But in 1998, when Deepak said "Go within," I discovered his teacher was the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and some of you may know the Maharishi from the '60s. He was the giggling guru, the Beatles guru, as you recall, and he taught a meditation called Transcendental Meditation. I went to Tampa, Florida. I used to live in Florida back then, and I learned it. I paid $600, and I learned a valuable lesson, not just the meditation, but I learned that nothing free is going to produce anything of value, because if you don't invest in something, you're not going to expect something in return. Yeah. So that $600, which was a lot of money for me back then, I wanted to get an ROI on my money, right? I wanted to know what these gurus and these masters were talking about. So I practiced my meditation twice a day,
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes a day. And in 2001, I moved to Iowa, Fairfield, Iowa, at the Maverick University of Management. I went to college there. My study was having to do with higher states of consciousness. This is a real academic school in Fairfield, Iowa. Um, Maharishi International University is called.
Wow.
And in 2001, I experienced something that I could not understand on the intellect. It was not intellectual. But this was something that was not drug induced. It was the most weirdest thing for my intellect. Yeah. But what had happened was I experienced in this practice of one of these sessions a really unique feeling of ecstasy,
Mm-hmm.
bliss, love, clarity, and oneness. And later I discovered it was a neurobiological event that took place after many years of meditating. I was resting deeper. Huh? And so my physiology was getting deeper rest. And that allowed my body to have this experience, this very clear, unique oneness experience. And from that point on, I meditated for, now it's been 25 years. And this has been the basically my go-to all my life, from this place of meditation. As it cultivated and matured more and more, it has helped me make the right decisions,
Mm-hmm.
speak the right words, be more calm, have more mastery over my emotions, be more responsive than reactive. And this has been the driving force of my life. And from this place of meditation, I've added many
Wow.
other things, yeah, fasting and other things like that. So,
Well,
yeah.
it's interesting. I think we can spend another couple hours just going deeper into that conversation. It's so fascinating. But I think what you mentioned, if even if I just take everything away out of that, one word that would really hold true is meditation. I think that word has gone more and more value and credibility over the period of time. And I think today we all struggle so much from stress, from all kind of challenge on our personal and professional life. And I think meditation definitely is that anchor that can hold you back and allow you to just unleash a lot of inner potential to just manage all of this.
100%. Yeah,
Right.
it's good.
Awesome. All right, let's come back to business. One of the this is again, I just get drawn into this, so I'm just trying to discipline myself to come back to more structured conversation that I want to have rather than this fascinating. So, Cash, talk to us a little bit about. You mentioned earlier you invested in technology. You have worked to find the right people. You build a lot of this. So, talk to us about your people, process, technology that you bring to your organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I knew that in order for me to compete in a highly competitive market, when you have captive forces, direct forces, even our own carriers on the independent side, they're competing with us. It's a highly competitive market. We all can agree. Yes, consumers love the indie side. We have a lot to offer as the independent agency distribution line. But regardless, I would be left in the dust if I didn't acclimate and adapt to technology. And when I realized that most of my colleagues in the independent CEO ownership side are still using Excel, and I know it's laughable, but it's true. I knew that I needed to make major investments in the money that I was saving from the lowering of. So I raised capital internally. I didn't go outside to get capital. I raised capital of making wise decisions, right? Becoming more lean, right? And raising capital internally.
Mhm.
And then I took that and I said to my wife, she's the CFO, I said, honey, we need to step up into modernity. Yeah. We need to have systems in place that give our eyes clarity on our numbers. And guys, you can learn this stuff on Shark Tank, right? I mean, guys, knowledge is ubiquitous today, okay? But the application of knowledge, this is
Mhm.
scarce even today. Knowledge is everywhere. Everywhere you can open YouTube, free knowledge, 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 knowledge. But nobody applies the knowledge. So, but I said to my wife, honey, we need to take this money and we need to invest it in technology. We need to get a robust agency management system. Back then we had Hawksoft, and Hawksoft's a great system, but we wanted to scale.
Mhm.
And in order to scale, you have to have agents, right?
Mhm.
And to have agents, you have to have granular commission structures, and we
Mhm.
wanted a system that fostered that. And so we went with Applied Epic.
Okay.
Applied Epic was a relief for my wife because she does her commissions, and it's really strong in the side of accounting. So we made that investment. It was expensive, but it was worth it, right? And but then Epic, Applied Epic, guys, was great for the left brain people, like my wife and the numbers people, but I'm right brained, right? I'm running a sales organization here. So for salespeople, Epic was very dry, right? Sanitized. It was very sanitized. It wasn't great on the eyes. And I always say monkey see, monkey do, right? And I needed a system that was more user friendly, that showed numbers in a more easier fashion, that when an agent of mine opens up their dashboard, they can see where they are, where they've been, where they're going, right? And Epic wasn't able to produce that. But fortunately, Epic did partner with various different CRMs, because it's not a CRM. Epic is not a CRM. It's an AMS, agency management system. I needed a client relation manager, and I invested in Salesforce. I tried it. Nothing wrong with that. It wasn't for me, however. Salesforce wasn't for me, and I don't want to speak ill of any company out there, but it wasn't for my ecosystem.
Mhm.
But it taught me what I don't
You
want
want.
in that
Right.
space and what I do want. And I knew that I wanted a CRM that was specific to my space, not just a CRM that can be made specific into my space,
Mhm.
but that's already customized for the insurance space, that knows my language. So I was in a one of these conventions in Southern California. I think it was Palm Springs, and I discovered InsuredMine.
Mhm.
And I was not ready back then. It took me 6 months to make a decision because I had I had my experience with Salesforce. I was hesitant, but when the time was ripe, I made the investment in our CRM, and it's been one of the most pivotal moments of my agency career because
Mhm.
it gives me that granular look into the nitty gritty of my agency. And service, everybody, service, this is my philosophy. Service is your best advertisement. See, insurance is not tangible unless it's in service and claims. Yeah, we can sell, we can make promises, but the promise has to be backed up with legendary service.
Mhm.
And so a CRM, such as the one I'm using, I call it I am. It's also spiritual I am. Is
It's
that
very
it
well
gives
thought. Somebody, whoever thought about it has done a good job.
uh, absolutely much, kudos to you, brother. But the making a deal card puts things in the forefront. Creating a task means that no insured gets left behind.
Yeah,
And if we want to produce that legendary service and promote word of mouth, then it's highly important in a competitive market that we stand out, we're set apart.
yeah,
So anyways, the investments in technology cause that, and it makes the recipient of my services feel, even though I have to pay more premium because the market is going up, well, you know
they
what?
love
At
it.
least I'm
Yeah,
going to stick with Fadaie because they're watching after me.
for
And
sure.
in this uncertain market, they can give
This
me
value.
certainty.
Yep, yep, yep.
So
I
that's
appreciate that. Again, I love everything you talk about Insured Mind. You guys have been using super user. But talk to me or share with us about your aha moment while running this business for decades now. Um,
Yeah, there's been many aha moments, but I'll just share with you my biggest one and my most recent one. And that aha moment was I was talking about going from employed to self-employed, then business owner, right? Delegation.
mhm,
But then there's that final frontier, investor, right? The I. And my biggest recent aha moment was that I needed to invest not in just technology, but in human capital. Human capital. That was because my why, WHY, was to scale this agency, create legacy. And in order to do that, I needed to get out of writing business. I had to stop writing business because business was coming and everybody wants cash. Cash, write this, cash, quote this. But I knew, I had a revelation that as long as I write business on this chair, I'm stunting my growth. I'm not getting to where I need to be. So the moment I decided that that's it, I'm going to recruit highly talented people, whether
mm.
they're novice or not, didn't matter. Actually, I do better with novice people because they're coachable.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would take these people in their 30s and 40s, didn't know nothing about insurance, but because I'm very good at building teams, that this comes from my TM practice,
Yeah.
I was able to take these individuals and pour into them, and I made them into these wonderful producers. And
Hmm.
so all this business that was coming into me, I give it out. I give it out. Give, give, give. Every lead goes to a particular department and they write it, and we split those commissions, and they're also getting part of the renewal because that's the
Nice, nice.
incentivization of an entrepreneur. There's plenty to go around. I don't need to be greedy. And if the lead comes from my procuring, I'm the controlling agent
Hmm.
and they're the writing agent, but we split
Hmm.
the profits. And my team does the servicing. Another aha
Interesting.
moment, brother, was the producer should not do any paperwork.
Hmm.
No servicing.
Just
Why?
go sell.
Because just sell. Because if they're marketing, that's 30% of their time. If they're doing the processing and endorsing and ID cards, that's another 40, 50%. There's nothing left. So that's going to stunt growth. So
Yeah.
I made all my producers, you are playing forward like football. You're only there to strike. Don't come back to the defense. Don't come back to midfield. We push the ball up.
Yeah.
So I provide leads, highly, highly quality leads, as high as they can be. And I keep my sales force
Busy selling.
very busy. Yeah, busy selling, busy doing the right things.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
then
a
I have
very
a pro. Yeah.
I think you just shared, Cash, a very interesting business model. Uh, it's a very flywheel concept, where there is entrepreneurship within an entire organization in itself. And I think there is a lot of value in that, rather than just a traditional, I would even say, old school thinking of how you have done insurance. It's rather than how you are encouraging entrepreneurial mindset within the agency. I think that's a very, and I'm sure there are folks who would listen to this and should be reaching out to you to understand the depth of it. Um, as we get to the end of it, again, I wish I can spend another couple hours on this podcast, but I promise I'm going to bring you back again on for the second episode for sure, because there is so much to unpack here. Last question, if I may. What is your end game here? What do you have um, in your mind? If there is no end game, hey, what does this next 5 to 10 years should look like?
We want to get to $100 million in premium. After that, we want to be a general agency with exclusive markets. And right after that, we want to be an insurance carrier.
Man, you
Now,
got it all figured out, it
yeah, well,
seems.
and that's it, brother, is that I want to leave our audience with this. I, I believe that we have to be very clear, very, very clear on our vision. And we should look at this vision in our mind's eye every day, a few times a day. And as we look at this vision every day, it becomes crystallized in our consciousness. And so that's why when you asked me that, brother, I just, it's exuding out of me because I'm already seeing it. I see it every day. I see the
Mhm.
name of the agency. I see, and the more we look at this, folks, in our mind's eye, more details come automatically. They
Hmm.
emerge. The
It's like you're
color of this.
manifesting the future.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And guys, nothing I say to you today in 2024 is nothing that you don't hear from any of those mentors and gurus on YouTube and podcasts. It's all there, but we have to take steps, step by step, to bring it about. Execution is missing. And that's what I try to focus on. Execute.
Man.
Execute.
But you are definitely a very interesting person individually, and what you have done is just a phenomenal, looking at from the history of a 10-year-old refugee to all of this and where you are looking to go. It's just fantastic journey, man. And I wish
Thank
you
you.
all the best, Cash, and I just wish to continue to be a friend and a person of acquaintance, so who watches you as close as possible to your successful journey. And thank you for
Thank you.
sharing all of this with us.
I'm grateful to be here with you, and I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.